And today I'm joined by Jonathon J, who is an Associate Director at Investec Wealth and Investment UK. So thank you so much for joining me today, Jonathon,
Thank you, Sam.
on the Financial Planner Live podcast.
No, thank you.
Have you had a
Pleasure.
listen? Have you had a listen before? I like to put people on the
I
spot.
have.
Actually, you have.
Yeah, I have.
Okay,
Yeah, to
cool.
a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously you reached out to me, didn't you? As you know, looking to hopefully become a guest on the Financial Planner Live podcast. Why was that? What was it about the podcast that sort of drew you to me?
Because it was so career focused, and talking about how people can get into the industry, what sort of expectations that they should have about being in the industry. I just don't think there's enough out there. I don't think we pull enough talent really into the industry. If you're a lawyer, an accountant, there's a very clear path into those industries. And I kind of feel that a lot of people in financial planning fall into financial planning accidentally in lots of ways. So I just feel really passionate about trying to get more talent into the industry.
Fantastic. Well, that's the whole purpose of the podcast. It's about raising the profile of financial planning as a profession, hopefully attracting new people to the industry, but at the same time, sort of hopefully sort of inspiring those that are already working within financial planning and helping them see the different routes in different companies, because with financial planning, there are lots of opportunities in different roles, but at the same time as well, there's loads of different sort of paths you can take. I mean, some people go down the employed route, some people go down the self-employed route, some people go from power planning to compliance, to administration. There's so many different routes, and I think different companies have different time scales and different cultures. So it was good for me really to try to pull in lots of different people from the industry and get them to share their stories. So yeah, I'm pleased about that because you're right. There's nobody out there doing a careers-based podcast around financial planning, and yet there are very, very few people coming into the industry, and we're getting a lot of people that are going to be exiting the industry within the next 10 years. So from my perspective, there's a huge opportunity for financial planning as a career, and
Definitely
some good, it's some good money to be made in financial planning. Let's not beat around the bush. If you're a good financial planner, you've got some good clients on board, you can earn some good money in this career. And obviously it's a very fulfilling career which offers a work-life balance as well. So good.
Definitely.
Well, nice one, Jonathon. Good. Someone who's passionate about the industry. That's what I want to hear. So, Jonathon, what's the whole purpose, and you're sure we've heard it, the Financial Planner Life podcast, is to really understand your career today. Okay, because you're currently working as Associate Director for Investec. You didn't walk into that job. You obviously worked your way up to that position. So, really keen to hear about your journey, how you got into the industry, and what you've experienced really, and how you've managed to get yourself up to the level of Director at Investec at quite a young age as well.
Yeah.
So really keen to hear that. And I think that'll inspire a lot of our listeners who are on the beginnings of their journeys. So one thing I always like to ask, first of all, is how did you get into the financial planning industry?
In a very long-winded way. I almost take you back to what we've just said about the industry itself. And I fell into it by accident in a lot of ways. I left school with not the greatest A-levels. I probably should have done better. No, I definitely should have done better. But I'd planned through my last few years of being at school to being an officer in the army, to be a pilot in the army. And that was all on track apart from my A-levels. So I had to rethink. And once I left school, clearly going into the army, not having a degree was the ambition. So I decided not to go to university. My A-levels made my mind up with that as well. So I didn't have a degree. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do because everything had kind of been thrown up in the air. And I was thinking, because the whole army thing didn't go quite to plan, I had literally had no idea. So I just went and got a local job at a call center. And after a few different call center jobs, I managed to get myself into Santander Bank, working in customer service. And that was telephone based, and that kind of I went through a few different roles there, through into sales, and that was about 3 years into working. And I decided at that time I'd had enough fun, and I wanted to start taking my career seriously. And around that time, I met my now wife at Santander,
Mm.
who got a job working for Emirates in Dubai.
Okay. Yeah.
And I grew up in Dubai, so I knew the place well. And I was speaking to my dad about possibly moving over there to be with Faye, and he put me in touch with a friend of his who was, because I'd worked in a bank, I decided, I'd carry on down some sort of financial services route, but I just didn't really know.
So at that point then, you're working at Santander, you worked in sort of multiple roles, customer service, sales, that type of thing. So you started getting an understanding of financial services.
Yeah.
You realised also as well, it can be a bit of a DOS, can't it, in contact centres? You can have a bit of fun and all that. I used to work in sort of for Aviva, the joint venture with the RBS on their bonds and investments and all of that. So I was a trainer and I worked all the way through contact centres. Great ground to get your head around financial services, and great sort of place to get multiple skill sets, especially around, I think, customer service. And if I didn't do that, I don't think I'd have really given a crap about customer service, actually, because I was a bit of a sales monster at times. But it taught me a lot around that. So from there, then you kind of thought, did you have an idea though, when you were in Santander, that financial planning was something that you wanted to get into? Were they talking about that? Was there sort of training development or anything along those lines?
No, not at all. So I don't think I actually really knew what a financial planner was at that time. My idea of what a financial planner was is the person you went to see in a bank branch who would sell you a credit card or a mortgage or set you up with a current account. I really didn't know too much about financial planning at all. So yeah, it was completely accidental.
Okay. So
but yeah, so my dad linked me up with this guy in Dubai, and I met him when I went over there to visit Faye. And he put me in touch with, he had a conversation with me, said, I'm willing to send a few emails and put you in touch with a few companies in Dubai that do wealth management. Because I'd kind of, when I was in Dubai, started to look into careers in financial planning. And I'll be honest, I saw that I had to do exams. And I thought, do I really want to do that?
Yeah.
And yeah, so he put me in touch with a few wealth planning firms or wealth management firms in Dubai. And I went for a series of interviews and landed a job with a company called AES International. And that was kind of the start of this journey now, if you like.
What you said there about being put off by qualifications, do you think that the qualifications right now are too hard for somebody coming into the industry? Do you think it's too much of an ask to be level 4 qualified or not?
Well, no, I personally, I wouldn't be surprised if one day in the future level 4 is no longer
really
enough. I wouldn't be surprised if it was chartered or somewhere in between, having a higher level of qualification. I don't think it's too much to ask at all. If we go back to solicitors and accountants, they go through a full degree process and then have to go through a series of exams once they finish. I think if you're going into any sort of professional service, which we need to consider ourselves as, then you should be expected to be highly qualified and well positioned to give that advice.
Yeah, and I think as you mentioned there about accountancy, solicitors, it's very early adopted in the universities, isn't it? People have it in the mentality in their mind is that they want to become a solicitor or they want to become an accountant. No one really ever says, I want to become a financial planner. And I mean, there are university qualifications now and degrees, isn't there? Some of the universities are offering financial planning as that route. And I think the more we see that, the more it's going to prepare somebody and go, well, do you know what? That sounds like a profession I'd like to get into, and they'll start to do it. And then naturally the qualifications will just follow. And like most of the sort of the advice I've been sort of given from anybody who's talked about doing the qualifications is just to get stuck into it. And I think just don't stop basically, because once you get you get a bit of rhythm going with them, you can pass them within I'm speaking to people who pass them within 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, so that was me with my diploma, actually. 7 months I did my diploma in,
You did yours in 7 months, did you? Yeah, fair play. So how did you okay, sorry, I'm just sort of interrupting your little journey here, because you were obviously at Santander, went over to Dubai with your now wife, because she got a job over in Dubai. How old were you when you went over to Dubai?
22, I think.
Quite young then. Okay, cool. So did you get sort of hounded and jumped on by all the wealth management firms that are out there, like your De Beers and all that kind of stuff? Did you interview with lots of different people?
Massive ego boost.
Is it? Yeah, they're very good at that, aren't they?
Yeah. So I think I went for 5 interviews and was offered 5 jobs. But they're all what they call business development managers, relationship management roles, where your job is to get on the phone and make appointments for financial planners. AES, the company I worked for, was the only firm who had offered something that's slightly different.
Okay.
So they were starting at that point, or had started moving towards a UK model, where advisors had to be UK qualified, level 4 qualified. They'd completely knocked the cold calling on the head. And they seem to be, again, I didn't really know enough about the industry to make my mind up, but I spoke about all the different options to my dad at the time, and he said, this firm sounds like they're putting the clients at the middle of everything they do, at the center of everything they do. Why don't you? It sounds like they're the best route. So yeah, I got what was labelled. So they were doing a lot of setting up offshore bank accounts for for expats in Dubai. So my role was kind of split between trainee paraplanner and private banking executive, where I was doing like the administration behind setting up these accounts.
Okay, cool. Okay, so a little bit of private banking, relationshipy stuff. It wasn't the, oh, by the way, join us as a wealth manager. Here's a yellow pages. Now make 1,000 calls a day type
Not at all.
setup.
Not at all. Yeah.
So it kind of landed on your feet there, really, because you're absolutely right. I think the 90% of the companies that are out there tend to be that route, and they bring people in as these business developers or whatever they want to call them. But essentially, you're a glorified appointment maker earning commission, aren't you? And there's a fair few of them out there. But yeah, you're right. A lot of the companies out there are changing now. There's a few different laws that are changing over in the UAE, where I think commissions are being halved and all sorts. So you can't quite work the way they used to work, although you still can do commission based as well as fee based. But a lot of the firms are start to change, aren't they, and adopt the UK style of advice. Same really for a lot of the offshore, even in Hong Kong. And I had a guy, Simon Parfit, on the podcast who was he's life-centered financial planner, and he's really embracing the fee-based model, and like one of the very few fee-based models in Hong Kong, but it's working. The assets under management model works.
Well, it's sustainable, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It's sustainable, but it also just means you're giving that clear advice to somebody, and it's honest, and it's not just commission-led, is it? And I think that's the concern that most people have with offshore, is they're just flogging loads of really dodgy products just for high commissions. Okay, so you got yourself over to Dubai. You were over there, quite young, getting stuck into that. You were doing this kind of like private banking assistant type role almost? Yeah? Okay. So cut your teeth doing that. How long were you there for? Did that work out? Was that a dream role?
Yeah, it just didn't last very long. I was on a salary, so there was no potential really to earn more than I was earning at that time, considering the role I was in. And it's just so expensive to live there. And between me and Faye, we decided. Well, actually, I really wanted to stay there and make a success of it, because I could see the direction the company was going in, and it all seemed great. But at that time, to sit the exams, I would have had to travel back to the UK. So I wouldn't have been able to get through my exams very quickly at all, because I couldn't come home every couple of months. I wasn't earning enough money to do that. So getting through my exams at the speed I wanted to was going to be difficult. But also there was a guy who joined the company at the same time as me, but he was an advisor. He was level 4 qualified, and he'd been an advisor in the UK. And he just said to me, we got on well, and he said, if I think you've got what it takes to be a success in this industry, you've got the right personality type, you've got the work ethic, but if you really want to take this seriously, the best route for you is really to go back to the UK, to get that experience that you're going to need, to get the exams you're going to need. And that kind of made my mind up, to be honest.
Okay, well, that's very interesting then. So you were thinking in your head, you wanted to do the level 4, the UK qualifications. You couldn't sit the exams over in Dubai. So that was a big pull for you as well about going back. Somebody who's obviously been an advisor in the UK, you're working with over in Dubai, could see the potential in you, but just thought that, you're probably not going to be able to do it as quickly or as how you want to do it over in Dubai. Get yourself back to UK and be qualified. So was your sort of mindset, right, okay, I'll go back to the UK, do my qualifications and then go back out offshore? Did you have that in your mind, or were you thinking, no, I'm going to go back to the UK and just I've tasted a little bit of what Dubai has to offer and it's not for me?
Look, I love Dubai. I grew up in the Middle East. I grew up in Saudi Arabia and Dubai, and I've got lots of contacts there, friends there, and probably When I first left, I thought it's unfinished business. Should I go back? But as time's gone on, and probably not that long ago, actually, I completely ruled it out. Moving to Dubai, I think I've put in too much legwork here to give up what I've now built in the UK, and I work for a great firm, so it'd be very difficult to give that up, to be honest.
There's me trying to pitch a job for you over in Dubai now, isn't it? Hey, do you fancy working in Dubai? No, great. No, we're joking. All right, cool. So great. So that's interesting. It's a very typical route as well. There's a lot of people out there at the moment that I'm speaking to that are going off to Dubai, UAE, and they are sort of cutting their teeth as a financial advisor, if you like, as over in an environment where is either, they don't have to be level 4 qualified, and they're getting stuck into it because they're not doing it in the UK. They might be finding it difficult to get a route into the UK, or they're just sort of attracted by the roads being paved with gold, that you see all these adverts, come over to Dubai, earn £200,000 a year, and it's tax free, and you can be a financial advisor. You don't need the qualifications, and I think some people are drawn into that. But a lot of people go over there. Some are an absolute success, because I've spoken to some people earning ridiculous money, like 1 to 2 million a year. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Whereas some people just go over there and just can't do it. It's a hard sales role as well, isn't it? Because you're having to. It's competitive over there.
Oh yeah.
And it's relentless. It's relentless, yeah. So it's kind of sales, isn't it, as opposed to, or I would consider to be like traditional. It's financial. There is financial planning element of it, but there's a huge amount of emphasis on being a strong business developer.
Yeah.
But those people coming back who did all right out there. I mean, the one thing they definitely got is some skill set around picking up the telephone and building relationships, and not being afraid to generate some introducer relationships, using LinkedIn effectively. Sales, basically, the BD side of the job, which sometimes financial planners lack. They lack that skill set of being able to go out and win business. And we see.
Well, I think that's the direction that the industry in the UK has gone down, is where, we probably weren't that far away from the offshore market 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. And, we've come a long, long way away from that sort of sales role and moved more into advice-led business. And I think the word or the terms business development, sales have almost become like dirty words in the industry.
Yeah.
And people are a bit scared to use them. And, still now financial planners have this reputation of being those salesmen, not door-to-door salesmen. And we're just so far away from that now. But I think we still carry that around a little bit. And I think people are a bit worried about that.
Yeah, and I think it's about really your brand as well that's behind you and supporting you. I think if you've built a good brand, if you've built a good personal brand, or your company has a good brand, that should be enough to sort of build those relationships. But still, you still do need to step outside of your comfort zone. I mean, I speak to people at all different, varying stages of their career, and if somebody's going from like employed to self-employed, and they've been used to clients, it's a bit like when everyone worked for the banks. People were so used to clients walking through the door that when they left, because the banks kicked everybody out due to RDR, they just couldn't get their heads around the fact that they have to go out and win their own clients. And that's a big struggle with people that are self-employed, is like that is that mindset shift that you're not reliant upon the company passing you leads anymore. You have to go out and build relationships, introduce the relationships. You have to market yourself, build your personal brand. And those are the bits I think people are starting to do better. You're seeing a lot more of it on LinkedIn, but it's definitely an area of weakness, I think, for some. All right, cool. So you're over in Dubai, came back to the UK. Right. So, you didn't have any qualifications when you came back to the UK. You had a small amount of experience of working within this private banking type role. There's a little bit of power planning, a little bit of administration. You kind of cut your teeth into it. But in your mind, you're thinking to yourself, right, now I want to get into financial planning. That's the industry I want to get into. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So what was next?
So coming back to Liverpool, I was very lucky, actually. I'll be perfectly honest, what I was doing at AES wasn't power planning.
No.
It was far more administration than anything, really. But I'd looked, so for me, there's kind of 3 different roles in financial planning. There certainly was at the time, where you've got an administrator, a paraplanner, and a financial planner. And luckily, I had on my CV that had paraplanner title on my CV, and I was doing small bits and pieces, but I didn't want to move back to the UK and go into an administration role and have to then. For me, I wanted to get to be a financial planner as quickly as possible, and in order to do that, I needed really to get a paraplanner role. I kind of skipped that administration role.
Interesting then. So your goal in your head was, I want to be a financial planner. The going down the administration route and going down the paraplanner route was really a stepping stone into becoming a financial planner. Yeah.
Yeah. So 6 years ago, they didn't have what they have now with like academies, apprenticeships, this trainee financial planner role. It just didn't really exist at the time.
Okay.
So I felt like that was the stepping stone.
That was the yeah, and typically it still kind of is really, and there is a mindset around that at the moment within the profession that, okay, well, work your way up from administrator, then do a paraplanner role, and then you can become a financial planner. But you do have these other options out there, like Quilter, etc., with the Quilter Advisor School. I mean, that's pretty damn good. You can get your qualifications within 6 to 7 months. At St James's Place, obviously, you've got an academy, but you have to become a partner afterwards. And there are certain firms that are now bringing people on into this kind of hybrid trainee role, or they're making it incredibly clear that if you join us on this program, you're going to learn a bit of administration, you're going to learn a bit of power planning, and you're then going to become a financial advisor within a time frame, within a period of time. And I think that's what people like to have, is that clarity of when, okay, if I join your company, I want to be a financial advisor. That's what my goal is. I don't want to be a power planner, but I'm happy to go through it and get myself up to the level to become a planner. And we're going to talk about your experience really around that, because it's not a bad thing, is it? Doing a power planner role, it's not, so, you came back to the UK, you marketed yourself on your CV by putting down paraplanner. Fair play to you. That's what it's all about. You were doing some administration, a little bit power planning when you were at AES. You came back to the UK. How did you then get into a UK-based financial planning firm?
Basically taking a very low salary at the time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't justify a high salary. I'll be very clear on that. And the power planner on the CV only really was a foot in the door.
Yeah.
And then I was interviewed by a company called E.S. Walton in Liverpool, and it was in the interview, I made no sort of false promises. I was very clear that I hadn't been a paraplanner. I hadn't started my exams. I felt like I needed to justify in that interview being made it was a trainee paraplanner. That was the role I was going to be taking. But yeah, I took a low salary and just took a plunge really, and wanted to prove that I could then, and through the interview process as well, making it clear that, my intention is to be a financial planner. I feel like I need to get the right foundation in place through being a paraplanner, getting all the technical sort of skills that I need to be a planner. So yeah, that's the way I kind of position myself.
Did you get that job through a recruitment agency, or did you go through like directly? How did you shortlist a couple of companies? Did you have multiple interviews? I'm just kind of, to anyone listening to this that say has very minimal experience that's trying to get into a financial planning firm, I think sometimes they don't quite know the route into doing it, because they either want a recruitment company to go out there and find them that opportunity, but in reality the recruitment company really only ever gets paid for putting somebody in who's got experience. So you are really fresh to it. And I'd like to just understand what did you do? Did you have an introduction? Did somebody introduce you? Did you send letters of CVs out? How did you find opportunities, and how many did you have before you settled on this one?
So my first step was to get in touch with a recruiter who had advertised a few roles on LinkedIn. And I spoke to them about becoming a paraplanner back in the UK, and they looked at my CV, and my CV on LinkedIn said that I'd worked offshore, and they honestly just laughed at me down the phone.
Yeah.
And that put me off using a recruiter at that time, because I was like, well, I need someone to be fighting my corner if they're going to be a recruiter for me. So I just was on Reed every day, looking at jobs that are out there and looking for jobs that are being posted direct from companies. And luckily at that time, perfect fit. There was a company that was a small outfit that looked after clients how I wanted, the sort of my exposure to get my exposure from. And they just lost a paraplanner, and they were looking for someone to replace them and train them up through the business.
Okay. So when you joined that firm then, did they put you through a clear career path? Did you get what was it? What was the reality like to what they're telling you in interview to actually what the job was like? Did they meet your expectations and match your sort of ambition?
Yeah, definitely initially. So they made no false promises. They said, we think that you'd be the right you've got the right personality type for a financial planner. We need someone at the moment to fill that gap as a paraplanner. But if you can show us that you've got all it takes to be a financial planner, we'll put you down that route. And they put me through all my exams. And like I said earlier, so I think I started in the December, and I was diploma qualified by July. So they put me through all my exams, gave me all the support I needed. I was doing reports about 2 months in, probably. I was doing a lot of admin tasks initially, and then I started phasing in reports. And so by the time I got diploma qualified, I was feeling pretty comfortable doing reports as well.
Okay, so and would you say that by then you were a fully fledged power planner? Because a lot of people use the title power planner, but they're just administrators. Were you doing things like the full power planning at this point with this company, cash flow modeling, all that kind of stuff, or were you just doing?
I was doing all that sort of stuff. Yeah, they did cash flow planning for every client.
Yeah.
I was doing almost everything that so in terms of the advice that they were giving to clients, yes, I was doing everything that you require from a power planner. But actually, early on, while I was at ES Walton, I was approached by a recruiter for a job at Investec, and I went for an interview there, and it was very clear the difference in clients that they were looking after, and the different type of role. The paraplanning role was going to be a lot more involved, and I felt like, wow, I'm not even diploma qualified at this point. This is way over my head. I don't want to chop and change my CV too much.
Yep.
But also, I wasn't ready for that sort of role at that point. I got diploma qualified in the July, and the plan then, I started going to meetings with ES Walton and with the advisors, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they were looking after smaller clients, and Investec, after being through that interview and going through that process, I could see that there were firms out there looking after much bigger clients, more complex cases. And I kind of in my own mind made my mind up that I wanted to work with high net worth clients.
Okay.
So they started putting me through this training plan. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, do I need to step sideways and do something else if ultimately I want to work with a different type of client?
Okay, so Brill, that's quite interesting then. So you've done over a year, you started getting your qualifications, you were getting embedded into that smaller, more boutique firm than ES Walton. ES Walton weren't a company, although they were doing everything right, they were giving, full financial planning and everything, and, fantastic, company to work for by the sounds of it, mentoring you, getting through your training, giving you everything that you really wanted to work towards becoming a financial planner. All of a sudden you had your head turned by a recruitment consultant. That is probably, did you find that all of a sudden you had a year's worth of experience with Paraplan on your CV, and then all of a sudden you became a bit of a hot commodity?
Yeah, definitely. It became very clear how few paraplanners there are out there.
Yeah,
especially in Liverpool, I think there's even fewer.
And I do think this with the people when when people are thinking, I want to become a financial advisor as quickly as possible. Absolutely, 100% become a financial advisor as quickly as you can. And if we can find you a route, or you can find a route into having a trainee role, fantastic. But don't look past this power planner position, because as you just rightfully said there's a huge demand for power planners, and there's not loads of them out there. So as soon as you've got power planner on your CV for a year, all of a sudden you become very attractive. And if you're an administrator earning £21,000 a year, 22,000 quid a year, as soon as you're got a few qualifications under your belt, even if you're part qualified, you can demand a salary of anywhere between 30 and 40,000 as a paraplanner, and people
Yeah.
are willing to pay that. So again, it's that kind of really lovely route into financial planning. If you want to go down the route to become a financial advisor, or if you just want to stay being a paraplanner, the role paraplanner, get your qualifications, get your experience, and your salary should shoot up as soon as you've got a year's worth of experience on your CV. So that's my advice to anybody really at that stage is, get these qualifications and get that experience, and have paraplanner on your CV will open so many doors for you at entry level. And that's the bit I think people struggle with. It's like, I don't want to be an administrator. And you went through it yourself, didn't you? It's like, I didn't really want to be an administrator. I want to get stuck into a financial planning role. And as you said, at the time, there was no advisor schools or anything like that had those fast track options for you. But not to be sniffed at, administration to power planning, you can jump salaries there and experience as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So whilst you were working for ES Walton, as we just sort of said, they weren't dealing with high net worth or ultra high net worth clients. Would you class them as kind of like Middle England then, those types of?
Yeah. And look, there's a huge space in the market for firms like ES Walton. Without firms like ES Walton, there are a huge number of clients that aren't receiving financial advice when they ultimately need it. So yeah, it wasn't a case of I was turning my nose up at it or anything like that. It was just I wanted to. I knew once I got diploma qualified, I wanted to get to chartered, and that was starting to give me, added technical ability that I wanted to be able to use. And the best way to do that was working with high net worth, more complex cases.
Okay, great. So for somebody listening to this right now, and we talk about complex cases, what's the difference then? What would be an example, say, of a complex case for somebody who's high net worth against, say, financial planning for a Middle England type client? So what is the difference between Middle England and high net worth advice?
Yeah, so I'd say it goes from, you're looking at building up pension pots or taking from pensions tax efficiently, and pension contributions, ISA contributions, that type of advice, to you've got a client that you need to manage income tax, you need to look at inheritance tax and the succession planning. They've got complex pension structures that you need to look at, and you're looking more as you go up the net worth scale. More and more areas of financial planning are needed per client, I'd say. So yeah, it was just going to be, I was going to have more exposure to, so we weren't looking at estate planning very often,
okay,
for example.
Yeah.
Because a lot of clients didn't have an inheritance tax liability. That's something I wanted to get into. And with that comes, trust planning, things like that, which can be very interesting and complex. So yeah, it was just getting exposure to those different areas, really.
So, okay, so you were working as a paraplanner for ES Walton. You had a very sort of difficult decision to make by the sounds of it. Stay with a company that's invested some time and energy with you, giving you that sort of leg up, if you like, within the industry. You obviously gave your pound of flesh as well by the sounds of it. You worked hard. Had your head turned by a recruiter talking about Investec, which are a very large and successful organisation that deal with high net worth and ultra high net worth clients, and you thought to yourself, "Oh God, I don't know whether or not I'm ready for this." So talk me through that. Then you sort of thought, "Well, I'll go to the interview and let's see what happens."
You mean early on with Investec?
Yeah.
I think it was just the brand. The brand itself made me think. I wasn't looking for a job. I wasn't interested in moving, but when someone sends you a message to say that a company like Investec are recruiting, it's attractive. I think maybe subconsciously I always wanted to work for a large firm like Investec. I hadn't given it too much thought, but clearly it was attractive to me, and that's why I had my head turned at that point. I'd say, yeah, it was just the brand, I think, that really pulled me.
It was the brand. Okay. So in the back of your mind, obviously you had that thought process in your head that you were studying towards your chartered. You started learning a little bit more about complex cases in the environment you were currently in. You didn't really feel that you were probably going to match get that level of experience within the company you were in. Up comes an opportunity that give you that leg up into that environment, the high net worth and the ultra high net worth arena, to give you that interesting work and to match your ambitions. So off
Yeah.
you go to Investec then. So, at that point though, in your head, you're thinking, because you obviously had ambitions still to be a financial planner, not a paraplanner. So when you
Yeah.
joined Investec, did they talk to you at interview stage about your ambitions? Did they manage your expectations? Talk me through that, because in my head I'd be like, well, I'm a paraplanner at the moment. Why would I sidestep into another paraplanner position? So
Yeah, I feel very lucky actually. Throughout my career so far, I haven't had false promises at all. I haven't gone into a role and been told, we'll make you a financial planner, but it just was never going to happen. I haven't experienced that, and I know that it does exist out there. But with Investec, I actually took on a maternity cover.
Right.
It was a 12-month contract. At that point in time, I wasn't married. I didn't have a child. I didn't have a mortgage to pay, so I could take that risk at the time. And so I made it clear at the interview stage that I wanted to be made permanent if that was going to be an opportunity. If there was no opportunity there to be made permanent, or no discussion around that, I probably wouldn't have taken that leap of faith. So it was a 12-month maternity contract. I wanted promises from Investec that there was a potential there to be made permanent, but also to be able to continue with my exams. I felt like continuing with my exams through a 12-month contract was almost a commitment from them anyway in my sort of long-term future. So they were the two things that I really looked for. But explaining as well that if I was to be made permanent at Investec, the ultimate aim for me was to be a financial planner.
Okay. And they were quite cool with that, were they? They were sort of open to that.
Yeah. Yeah, they said, look, you're going to have to come in and work hard and prove that, you've got what it takes to become a financial planner. Well, you've got to prove first that you can be made permanent, and you're going to fit in well with the team, and then prove to us that you can be a financial planner, and we'll look at that. Again, at the time, they didn't have sort of pathway for someone to become a financial planner. It was always possible, but they hadn't had much of that before I joined. In
Investec, yeah?
Yeah. I think before I actually joined the company, there's only one person, I think, that had gone from paraplanner to financial planner. And there's been a few now.
So ultimately then, Investec hadn't made anybody, they didn't have any clear career path for you to say, hey, join us, you'll become a financial planner within 2-3 years. They said, come in as a paraplanner. We were listening to what you were saying, that you want to become a financial planner, and we'll help you on that journey. And obviously you've gone into Investec, you started as a paraplanner. So how long were you working there as a paraplanner before you became a financial planner?
2 or 3 years ish. Yeah, about 3 years, I think.
About 2 or 3 years. And was that longer than you envisioned and that you hoped for?
Listen, I'm very ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely wanted things to happen very quickly.
Yeah.
I was realistic to a point. I guess Investec, with the type of client we work with, reasonably wanted people to be chartered before taking that step. But I think I spent about 2 years as a paraplanner and then a year as a trainee. So I had about a year working as a trainee in between as well. By the end of 2 years, I'd convinced them that they could put me on some kind of pathway, which at that point had been designed.
So yeah, that's really interesting about yourself as well, because you are somebody that is in you yourself, as you spoke on the telephone before, you are someone that likes to influence those you work with to see the value in what you can, what you're bringing to the actual role itself. And I think when sometimes people sit within a paraplanning role and they don't raise their profile enough to get them noticed and to get them promoted, what advice would you give to somebody who's sitting in a paraplanner position at the moment, who really wants to be a financial planner? What advice would you give them to help raise their profile within their company?
I try and put myself in the shoes of those who are going to make the decisions about me becoming a financial planner.
Right.
So I think, what do you want to see from me? What have I got to do to prove to you that I'm worthy of that, taking that step? And, and if you just think practically, what do you need to have done before you can take that step? So you need to have meeting exposure. You need to have not just meeting exposure, but be able to contribute to those meetings. So very early on, I was very clear that I wanted to be involved in meetings, and you've kind of got to convince people to let you do that by saying, you know, I'll come to the meeting, I'll do the work before the meeting to prep us. We'll have a discussion about how the meeting's going to go. I'll do the file note, and we'll have a discussion again, and I'll go away and do the paraplanning work. But doing the file note's really important as well, because you know, you sit down. It's a way of summarizing in your own mind after a meeting how the meeting went, what sort of things were discussed, what sort of things you can put in place following the meeting. So that was a really good learning curve for me. But yeah, it started off just getting in on meetings, and then eventually, once my confidence started to build in those meetings, you know, no matter what, you're going to go into those meetings and you're going to have a bit of discussion with the clients early on by just saying, how are you, what's been going on. You start having small discussions with clients, and you kind of build your way into a confidence of, okay, financial planner, I've prepped for this meeting, and one of the things we're going to need to discuss is, I don't know, like a complex calculation. I put that word together. I know exactly how it works. Are you happy for me to talk to the client about it? And just talk about that one part of the meeting. And then you gradually build the financial planner's faith in you, in being able to talk to clients without getting too flustered. I made mistakes along the way, but you know, I was quite honest with the financial planner after that. I'd always get feedback. You know, you want honest feedback. You don't just want to be told that you've done great every time. You want to learn, find out things you need to learn from and work on. And yeah, kind of taking the bull by the horns and doing things in your own, doing things yourself. You can't expect, you know, financial planners who've got client books to look after, who've got lots of pressure on them to you know, do their job. You can't expect them to, you know, have a full focus on your career. It's your career.
It's your career. So absolutely. So you say, grab the bull by the horns, sort of speak to the financial planner, say, look, this is let me come into the meeting. Let me talk about this complex case and let me articulate this. Give me a chance to do that. That then in turn gives you the experience of client-faced meetings, raises your profile within the business as well as being somebody who can talk about technical sides and becomes a bit of an expert. The financial planner almost looks at that as being like, right, okay, well, if you're coming in and talking about that, you can then do the work for me as well, which means it's going to take away their workload. So you're being a team player essentially at the same time. You're not afraid to get your hands dirty and get stuck in. You have to raise your profile. You have to step up and do, you know, put yourself out there to be noticed within a company. So how many sort of client meetings did you sit in on before you actually became a financial planner, and were they beneficial?
Yeah, well over 100.
Really?
Well over 100 client meetings. Yeah. I was going to a lot so when I became a trainee financial planner, by the end of that sort of process, I was going to most client meetings then with the financial planner I was working with. And something I was going to say as well about getting in on those meetings and why you've got to prove to financial planners that you're capable of taking over parts of the conversation and things like that. You've got to remember that the financial planner who's in charge of that relationship with the client, who's got that relationship with the client, it's a risk for them to bring someone in who might get flustered or who might, I don't know, say something wrong in a meeting and or rub a client up the wrong way unintentionally. You know, it's a big risk for them. So you've really got to prove that to them. But yeah, it was well over 100 meetings by the time I got signed off as a financial planner.
So again, it's being realistic, having realistic expectations that you're not going to become a financial planner from the get-go. There's a huge amount of skills that you've got to learn as a financial planner. And again, it gives a good example of the paraplanner route being that sort of hybrid, if you like, of moving you into the trainee advice role. If you can then get in on the client meetings, get the feedback directly from the financial planner, almost being mentored by that financial planner, and essentially that creates that team as well, doesn't it? You know, and I suppose if I was a client, not high net worth client yet, maybe one day, when if I was a high net worth client, I'd like to go into a meeting and have a group of people in there, talking to me. Because you guys over at Investec, you have the investment manager as well, don't you? So you've got your investment manager, you've got
Yeah,
the financial planner, you'd have the paraplanner. As a client, I love the idea of that. It makes it feel like a bit like a family office feel, and I can see all the different areas of the business. And it would then make me think, well, yeah, I'm paying you a decent amount of money per month to manage my money, but I can see in front of me who is actually working on my behalf, and it
mm,
would give that client confidence, I believe. And it's a valuable part of the process, being that power planner, and being able to articulate exactly the research that's been done and why you're doing it.
definitely.
Yeah, and you're right. God, as a financial planner that's worked is not, works really hard to bring a client on board is going to be slightly nervous, aren't they? And you've got to build that relationship and rapport with them first of all to show that you've got the characteristics and the right attitude before you go in there and they risk everything by popping you in front of them because you're having a bad day or you ask a silly question. So yeah, trust is definitely a big part of it, isn't it? And more so, I suspect, in a company such as Investec, where you are dealing with high net worth clients.
Mm.
One thing I'd like to ask you, and it'd be good for the listeners as well that perhaps who are thinking about going into a high net worth role, or that's their ambition. What do you class a high net worth client to be? How do you sort of class a high net worth or an ultra high net worth client? What's the difference?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess anyone that's got investable assets over £1 million. So forget their house and cash and things like that. So they've got investable assets of anywhere north of £1 million. You can put them in that high net worth bracket, I'd say. Anyone really that's going to have sort of inheritance tax planning needs or could. Not everyone wants to look at inheritance tax planning, but yeah, I'd say that from an Investec standpoint, we don't really look at clients as thinking, oh, they're a high net worth client, that's what we want to deal with. From financial planning perspective, we want to work with the clients that we can add maximum value to. So as clients, are we looking at tax planning, inheritance tax planning, pensions? Where can we add the maximum value, basically? Investment managers look after those portfolios, and then we come in to add the sort of financial planning value to that.
Okay, cool. So, all right. So you started off as you went into Investec as a power planner. Were you continuing your qualifications at that stage as well throughout? When did you end up becoming chartered?
Getting chartered took me about 2 years.
Okay, so about 2 years.
Yeah.
Was that from start to finish then, chartered, or are you including like level 4 in that as well?
No, so yeah, I was at ES Walton for a year, and got level 4 qualified, and 2 years from joining Investec, I was chartered.
You were chartered. What's really interesting is you went to school, you did your A levels, you admitted that for whatever reason you didn't do great on your A levels, didn't go to university, yet you're chartered. You're a chartered financial planner, and again, I think that's refreshing for anyone who is at school or in their A levels or perhaps at university who aren't as academic as their peers. Maybe they struggle a bit, that you can come out and you can do another qualification and you can pass it and you can become a chartered financial planner. Was it massively different from A levels? It? Yeah. Okay. But
getting chartered is I'd say level 4 is, you've got 5 multiple choice papers and a written paper at the end. It takes a commitment to do your level 4 qualification, but the commitment level steps up when you go to chartered, definitely.
The commitment, it goes up. So when you say commitment level, if you're going to go down the chartered route, what extra commitments are there? What does someone have to prepare for?
So I was studying, I was working 9 till 5, coming home, having my tea, and I'd do 2-3 hours studying every evening, and probably 5 hours on a Saturday, 5 hours on a Sunday. So I was working lots and lots and lots on top of having a full-time job. It is a big commitment, but for me, worthwhile.
Why would you say it's worthwhile to be chartered and not level 4? What's the benefit to being chartered over level 4?
Chartered takes you from, so all the technical stuff is covered in lots of ways with the level 4 qualification. Chartered switches that from, getting that knowledge and being able to apply that knowledge to client situations, and slightly steps up in the technical aspects. It's not a massive step up from a technical standpoint, but when you're then applying that to client circumstances and client situations, it is very different. And yeah, I just felt it fine-tuned everything that I'd already learned and I was learning on the job.
So do you think everybody should really be chartered? Do you think that should really be the standard?
It's difficult. For me, as someone who works with the type of clients I work with, yes. But I'm not sure it's entirely necessary for every type of client or every type of business. But, you could be working with smaller clients and you get a high net worth client that comes through the door who's got a very complex situation. I'd want to be as best prepared for that as I can. And yes, exams are not everything. You get lots and lots of your technical knowledge is, most of it, I think, comes from on the job sort of exposure. But yeah, I think it puts you in the best position to be able to look after clients personally.
Cool. So, so went in as a paraplanner. You've gone down the trainee route. You've influenced and won over colleagues and convinced them that you're the man to bring into the client meetings to discuss those technical issues and to help sort of add value to their client relationships. You then went down the route then of being like almost trainee financial planner. So what was the transition then? So from there to then becoming a financial planner, how did that work? We just handed a load of clients, or you've ticked a box, there you go, off you go. What was the transition like from being a trainee financial planner to being a chartered financial planner?
So the transition probably started 3 months before actually getting signed off. So I spent, say it was a year that I spent as a trainee financial planner. Probably the first 9 months, 6 to 9 months, were just more and more of getting as much exposure as possible, and just building on what I already had been. And then by the end of that period, I was leading on a lot of meetings under supervision. So I had a financial planner there with me, but they were then letting me carry out the whole meeting, a review meeting, sit in front of new clients. So I got myself to a position where the business was comfortable with me sitting in front of clients, leading meetings, and then starting the sign-off process. So probably the last 3 months of being a trainee was the sign-off process, which is, having sit in front of new clients, do review meetings, and then the advice that you put together in terms of reports is then peer reviewed and checked by various people in the business. I think it was about five cases, something like that, I needed to have, checked from start to finish. The whole process needed to be reviewed. And I got various bits of feedback on that. And once they then saw that from start to finish, I can look after a client relationship and give the right advice and that sort of thing, did I get signed off? At which point, then, yeah, I was given a few clients. I'm still, taking on clients from different colleagues at this moment in time. But I was allowed to go and, win new business. And that's what I spent I spent the last sort of, however long it's been, 18 months, just trying to get my name out there and win as much new business as possible.
So that transition then of being a trainee, sort of having your hand held, if you like, throughout the process, being a paraplanner and everything, and then moving into a chartered financial planner position where you have to go out and win new business. I suspect that Investec, a big strong name behind you, there are some existing client relationships within the business that might get passed over to you. But you are going outwardly as well to win new clients. How tough is it to win new clients as a financial planner?
Yeah, so it's different. It is different at Investec. I haven't I've brought on a handful of clients from outside mostly through referrals, actually, not building relationships with professionals elsewhere. We have an existing book of investment management clients, and our job is to look at those client relationships and see where we can add value. So, what sort of, if an example would be, if a client looks like they've got an inheritance tax problem, asking the investment manager to have a conversation, and do they want financial planning to be involved and to add value in that way, and kind of just adding as much value as we can to our existing client book.
Do you find it a challenge then, being a financial planner and having an investment management team? Because an investment manager will have his or her own clients, essentially, like their own book of clients, and they've built relationships with them and they manage their investments. And then you've got a financial planner who perhaps doesn't, again, it's a bit like your paraplanner experience, where you don't actually hold the relationship with the client of that investment manager, do you? The investment manager held that relationship.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of, is there friction in that type of relationship, or does one hand wash the other? Is it, can you see the benefit? Is there a clear benefit to the investment manager, a clear benefit to the financial planner, and you guys come together and are a dream team? Is that how it works?
Well, I think maybe historically in the past, when when financial planning first got involved with the business, there might have been that kind of friction. But investment managers, they're very highly qualified and they're very skilled, and they ultimately, especially our ethos is break China for the client and give as much as you can to a client. If an investment manager sees an opportunity to add value to that client and to do the right thing for the client, they do it 10 times out of 10. So yeah, it's all of the sort of client relationship side of things is, you're solidifying that relationship more if you have financial planning involved in a way, because an external financial planner doesn't need to get involved. All of the value is being added from Investec. So yeah, there's a benefit to the investment manager in terms of the relationship. They're not going to get paid more because they're introducing financial planning. And Investec doesn't work like that. We are, sort of judged by the total value that we offer to the business and to the client.
Okay, cool. So it's just another added benefit. So you're not just investment management, it's financial planning on top. You're not getting charged anymore. It's just a value added service. Historically, I assume that they would have just outsourced it to a different financial planner if there was a financial planning need, but instead keep it in house. And there we go. You've got your investment manager.
There is an added cost. So you pay for investment management and you pay for financial planning currently. So yeah, there's an added cost for financial planning to be brought into the relationship, but there's an added benefit, there's an added value, and quite significant value, I feel, that we add. And we don't just, we don't get involved in every client relationship. We don't get involved where we're not needed. And we're not going to, clients aren't going to have to pay for financial planning where it's not necessary.
It's not,
but where they do, no, not at all. Where they do, where we want, like I said earlier, we want to, as financial planning, add maximum value, which is why we don't class, we don't treat, I don't know, a £10 million client different to a £1 million client. We treat everyone exactly the same, and just try and add as much value to that client as possible.
Okay, so you're working as a chartered financial planner for 2.5 years, fully qualified, off out on your own, doing your own thing. Nobody standing over you or anything like that. So you've made it. You'd achieved what you set out to achieve when you made that decision over in Dubai that you wanted to be a financial planner, and that took nearly 6 years to get that to that kind of level, to get to a chartered level. So you were 23 years old when you first embarked on that journey, up until the age of 29. How is that right? Like 29, you became chartered?
No, sorry, I got chartered 3 years ago.
3 years ago, okay. Yeah.
So what was that? Yeah, probably took 3.5 years to get chartered from that first day at AAS in Dubai. Took about 3.5 years to get chartered, and then get on the sort of career pathway of a financial planner about once I got chartered, I was kind of put on that pathway.
Cool. So three and a half. So there we go. Brilliant. 3.5 years to become chartered. Within your journey within financial planning, I mean, your experience, you got exposed to it in Dubai, working in administration. You come back to the UK. You got stuck into a smaller boutique financial planning company that offering true financial planning. Did your qualifications. You worked hard to do that in the evenings and to do it. And to do the job itself and be mentored at ES Walton. Got your head turned, got yourself into Investec because you wanted to work with high net worth clients. Again, starting in that power planning position, there wasn't a clear career path that was available to you. They didn't say you're going to be a financial planner. In fact, it was a 12-month maternity cover. But it was the experience and the exposure that you needed to get on your CV to get you into that high net worth arena that would help you progress your career. Once we always established as well that by getting Power Planner on your CV, that got you noticed more by recruitment companies. It got you noticed more by other companies. So that was a great stepping stone, and to realizing really that you had a skill that was in need. You got yourself into power planning. From there, you influenced the advisors, the financial planners. You became got yourself noticed within the business. You raised your profile as being an expert in certain key areas, and you were asking to get yourself in those meetings with clients. You were saying, look, let me come in. I can add value at this level. I could talk about this complex case. And, and as you mentioned, you didn't just jump straight into a financial planner position. You had near enough 100 face-to-face meetings as a power planner before you even then became a financial advisor. And all at the same time, you were studying towards your chartered as well. So in 3.5 years of embarking on your journey, you then became chartered in Investec. So what that shows to me is that anybody really with a bit of drive and a bit of ambition, if they put their minds to it, without any experience, without a degree or anything along those lines, as you said, you didn't do great in your A levels. In 3.5 years, you can become a chartered financial planner working for one of the, one of the world-renowned investment management companies, Investec, as a chartered financial planner. So there is a pathway there. There is a route in. You can do it. It's not difficult to. It's not saying it's not difficult. It's hard work. It's graft. But if you want to do it, you can do it. And the reality is you've got to work your way up, but it can be done incredibly quickly. I suspect you probably saw a shift in your earnings as well. Now, not everybody wants to talk about earnings. I'm not going to go into the minute detail of what you earn, but I suspect you probably saw a jump in salary as well throughout your period of short period of working within financial planning. Would you agree that? Has it jumped up?
Definitely. Yeah. So total earnings is definitely significantly more than when I first started in the industry.
Yeah, and again, did you have that in the back of your mind that your earnings would go up so high in such a short period of time? Were you quite surprised, or did you think, oh no, that's definitely going to happen?
Yeah, I kind of, you have a loose idea of what your earning potential is. I've always felt that like the money hasn't been the main focus. Yes, I want to earn well.
Yeah,
I'm ambitious. I want to earn well. I want to travel and do all the sorts of things that comes with that. But I guess I've always seen the money side of things as just a byproduct of progression and of development. And try and, if I want to be paid more, I probably will, no matter what, for the rest of my life, want to be paid more. But in order to do that, I can't just expect to be paid more. I can't have that expectation. I need to be doing more every day. And that's kind of the mentality I have.
And the way you've done that really is to establish a need. So you're looking around you, you're looking within the business, and you're seeing where you can add value. And I think that's definitely a solid bit of advice to anybody with any business really, especially within financial planning, is look, don't rest on your laurels waiting for something to land on your lap. Make your own luck and influence those around you. See where you can add value within the business, and see what raises your profile. And clearly it works for you, because your journey doesn't really stop there, does it? You became a chartered financial planner, doing that for the last 2.5 years, and recently you've become one of the associate directors at Investec. Is that correct?
Yeah. So for me, I try and split my my focus in two really. probably 70-80% is, applying or giving as much value to clients as I can. That's my main focus. That's what I'm paid to do. But I also see myself as someone who should try, and I think everyone should try and add as much value to the business as possible. So I try and get involved in as many discussion groups, projects that I can get involved in that I feel I can add some value to. So adding value to the business itself, operationally, or however you'd want to phrase it, is also a focus of mine. And that's probably why I've, my progression has been good in terms of becoming a financial planner. But the things that I contribute to in the office and to the business, I think is probably what's justified the promotion.
Do you see yourself, like, from a future perspective then, do you see yourself being more of in more of a not controls role, but more in more of a leadership position in Investec? So is that, like, from an ambition, because how old are you at the moment? Just out of interest, I know you never asked that question, but I'm going to. How old are you at the moment?
29.
29. So what a great, again, it's inspiring to hear somebody who's gone through their 20s all the way up to, associate director level. So you've obviously clearly got some great ambition. So do you see yourself within a role more like management, or, like management, or driving the business forward, influencing how the business changes, that kind of stuff, as well as financial planning? Is that your kind of pathway?
Yeah, I'd hope so. I think the aim for me is leadership and management. But ultimately, in order for the business to let me do that, I've got to be the best financial planner I could possibly be, and I've got to do all the right things between now and then. So I think making steps towards that has almost got to be extracurricular. I've got to do that kind of in my own time, or find time that doesn't impact detrimentally to my client bank and what I'm doing there. So yeah, ultimately that's where I'd like my career to go. I really like the idea of being able to, I said earlier in the call that I'm passionate about new talent in the industry and things like that. I would love to look back on my career when the final day comes and say, I've had a massive impact on clients. I've, hopefully changed the lives of many clients and their children and things like that. But also within the business, left my stamp and had an impact that's helped colleagues and the business in terms of adding value there too.
What would you have done differently up to this date? So throughout your career, what might you have done differently?
Communicated my ambition differently.
Okay.
I think I've come across a bit too pushy sometimes. I'm very competitive, very ambitious, and sitting down and thinking before I approach someone about how quickly things are going, that sort of stuff, and doing things in the right way. I've probably made mistakes there in the past, and it hasn't held me back. It hasn't, and it's important to demonstrate and explain and articulate to the people who are making decisions on your future. It's important to do that, but getting the balance right and not coming across as entitled or and whatever. I think, to summarize, having you kind of need to just abandon any sense of entitlement. Becoming a chartered financial planner from a qualifications point of view doesn't make you a financial planner. It doesn't make you the best financial planner out there. It's everything else that comes with it. So abandoning any sense of entitlement and just gritting your teeth and getting into it.
Cool. So really kind of also maybe perhaps managing your expectations and the expectations of others really as well, because you're full of ambition and you drive and you want to get to where you want to get to, but sometimes someone else might not be thinking that way. So how you articulate it should be, again, with a little bit of patience perhaps, an understanding of that journey and how long it can take, and that other people are working at different levels. One of the biggest things I had to learn was, like, my expectations of other people were just ridiculous, because I was like, well, I can do it, you do it, or I want it now. I want it now. And I think that just comes with ambition, isn't it? It's deadly. It can come with ambition, but I think sometimes you've got to sit back and relax and realize that other people are other people, and they work their way, don't they?
Definitely
They have their own their own agenda as well. They've got their own lives going on, not just yours. So little
Well, that's it.
little less of self and more of others is always a good thing, I think. And sharing and thinking about other people is a good thing. All right, amazing. So, yeah, brilliant. Look, absolutely. I think what it shows to any listener listening to us at the moment is, you can, as I said to you earlier, I summarized, you can start, as an administrator and have that ambition in your head that you want to become a financial planner. Don't be put off by the fact you don't have qualifications from school or anything like that. Get stuck into a career that you want to actually do. So if you're interested in financial planning, right, well, what's my route? Get stuck in at the grassroots level, do a bit of administration, get into a power planning position. Each of those roles give you the skill set and the understanding of the process and what to expect from it. Influence those around you. A little pinch of ambition goes a long way. And then start to work your way up through different companies. And there are other opportunities that are out there that can turn your head. So it's worth listening to those opportunities to see what they're like, because you never know. It might be something that opens a door to the doorway, the route that you want to go down a lot quicker than perhaps just sitting there and waiting for something to land on your lap. Sometimes you have to take control. And I think there's a lot of fear around that. People like, oh, I don't know if I should or I shouldn't. Or it's like, no, just get stuck in and make your own luck, because ultimately what I understand when I speak to financial planners, they're incredibly busy. So you have to be making their life easier. So for example, from my perspective, if I'm recruiting for a company, they don't want to deal with going through loads of CVs. They don't want to deal with me phoning them up every 2 seconds. What they just really want is me to put a shit hot candidate in front of them, pre-prepared. So when they go in there, they go, right, yeah, oh, amazing, right? An hour and a half or something like that. It's a bit like that for a financial planner, isn't it? They don't want to have to constantly be dragged into meetings or, drained of energy. They want somebody who's got that spark and enthusiasm, that wants to train, that wants to do their qualifications, looks for those extracurricular activities, invests their personal time in their development, and adds value at the end of the day. And I think anybody who can see that in an employee will go, yeah, do you know what? Come and sit with me. I'll happily tell you a little bit more about what I do. I'll happily get you involved with my clients, because they can see the value, but they can see the ambition and the enthusiasm in that individual as well. So I think you're a prime example of that. And not everybody follows that path. And the entitlement side of it is a really good thing that you raised there. I think some people think it should just come to them, but actually that's not the case. You make your own. I think you make your own luck. Push yourself forward and put yourself forward to things, and good things will happen.
Yeah, and the other piece of advice that I give as well is around the paraplanner and financial planner role. I am very ambitious, and I like to think 10 years ahead and that kind of thing, but not everyone's like that. I think don't be put off by coming into the industry thinking, I have to ultimately become a financial planner. You don't have to make that decision early on. You can become a paraplanner. You can get all the skills you need to become a financial planner, and later on down the line, you can decide: do I want to sit in front of clients, or I want to carry on being a paraplanner, which is a career in its own right, which is just as fulfilling actually as being a financial planner. You're just not directly involved with those relationships, but sometimes you actually are. We have paraplanners on our team that regularly speak to clients. Clients know by first name, and they have a lot of interaction with. But ultimately, they are the decision maker, and that does come with an added level of stress and importance. But I'd say you don't necessarily have to make your decision from day one. I want to be a financial planner. It is an industry where you can kind of take sideways steps. If you could do all that, become a financial planner, and go, do you know what? This isn't right for me. But actually, you've got all the qualifications you need to be a highly paid paraplanner. So I think there's the industry itself is starting to take a really good shape, I think, when you compare to other professional services, and there's lots and lots of options available to people.
Absolutely right. There is lots of options. And I think taking that, people always think that, the financial planner is the be all and end all. And I think again, that's kind of down to earning potential. It is quite clear that you can earn more as a financial planner, whether you're employed or whether you're self-employed. I mean, employed to self-employed, massive difference. You can earn so much more as a self-employed advisor, but by going down the self-employed advisor route, there's a hell of a lot more hats to wear, and it's a different type of situation. Power planner, perhaps you're capped, your earnings can be capped. So I think it's down to that individual's ambition, isn't it, at the end of the day? But
Yeah.
not to overlook really who you are as a person and what you enjoy, because I think that's a big part of it. Because I imagine, when you're in a role of a financial planner, it has a different level of stress and responsibility, perhaps, that say power planning has. And different targets, different responsibilities, different expectations. And I think that can sometimes make the massive difference. And if someone's not into that business development side or extrovert side, they're quite introvert, then perhaps they're more analytical, perhaps are suited more to a power planning position, even though they think they want to be a be a financial advisor. It's like, well, look at your skill set. Have you done much around that? Have you ever done any kind of tests at all around assessing who what your skill set is or anything?
Yeah, I did something recently. I just personally online, and we've done a few things, bits and bobs in the office. These things that fit you into different categories, as like a driver, as a an extrovert, those sorts of categories. And personally, I've always gone into those two, the extrovert sort of driver type categories. And I think that's actually a useful thing to do, just to, you can have this preconceived idea of who you think you are, but actually when you go through these sort of tests and assessments, it can give you something you might be surprised by. I know certainly some people that I've worked with have been surprised by the sort of outcomes they get from it.
Yeah, I think so. We did it in our office. There's a really good one called 16 Personalities that's free on the internet. That's really good. So if anyone wants to do that, and then they want the premium version, just send me an email, because I'll give you the premium version. I've got the premium version. You get a full breakdown of your personality, skill sets, and all that kind of stuff. Really good. All right, amazing. So, Jonathon, I think that's a good insight into your career, good insight into how you got into it, good insight to where you are now. One final question: financial planning and technology, mainly things like robo advice, apps, that kind of thing. Do you think that's a threat to financial planning, or do you think the two can go hand in hand?
I think the two can go hand in hand. I think we probably over-egg how much of a need there is for robo advice. There's a lot of robo advice type businesses that have gone out there, and the take up of them hasn't quite been what people have expected. I think the demand for financial planning is growing so much that it's not going to have too much. We've got an issue in the financial planning arena of the age of the average age of a financial planner. There's going to be a bit of a gap somewhere, and people are going to need more and more advice. The more complex tax, the more complex, sort of tax structures are in place. And yeah, I just don't. I personally, I'm not worried about the future of advice at all. I feel very optimistic.
Yeah,
I feel very optimistic about it.
You're not seeing a slowdown in it. You're probably seeing an increase in it. I think the more people are going to inherit money as well, there's going to be a hell of a lot more inheritance, higher amounts of inheritance coming through as well.
Yeah, the transfer of wealth, I think, over the next 10 years, 20 years is enormous.
It's huge. It's huge potential there, isn't there? So somebody thinking about getting into financial planning, sort of thinking, well, technology will take over that. Yeah, so many tech companies get set up, but none of them. I think a lot of them are. Again, it's aimed at that Middle England market that maybe getting. They used to go to their bank to get a little bit of financial advice, but if you've got $5,000, $10,000 to invest, you might just want to chuck it into a stocks and shares ISA or something. You can do that yourself, and it's a bit of fun as well. But probably not the best advice to give. Coming from me, a recruitment consultant, just chuck it in an ISA. Stocks and shares are a bit of fun. But I think people kind of think they're a bit savvy around that, don't they? And there's certain risks involved in that, obviously. All right, amazing. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate that, and we'll get that all published, and we'll see what the listeners think.
Great. Thank you very much.
Nice one, Jonathon. Thank you, mate.